What's up guys, this is Coach Donny from Elevate Yourself. In this video, I'll be reacting to the new controversial double contact rule that was recently released by the NCAA Women's Volleyball. The official website states that the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel approved allowing women's volleyball players to contact the ball more than once with any part of the body in a single attempt on a team's second contact when the ball is played to a teammate. So oftentimes we think of just using the hands as a double where maybe they're not releasing evenly, but on a single attempt, this also means I can be setting one way and the ball can rattle off my head as long as it's one attempt. However, if the ball is played over the net in this type of scenario, meaning like a set or dump, it would be ruled a fault and the team would lose the point. So they're still going to call doubles if I'm trying to set the ball over the net with two hands and maybe there's an uneven release, or some referees might call excessive spin, even though spin does not necessarily mean that you doubled. The website further details on why they made this rule change: eliminating a judgment to bring more consistency to the game, promote continuation of play, which would make it more entertaining for fans. And here's an interesting fact. They actually collected data on this from the spring of 2022 and concluded that this would only change a few number of calls. I did ask this question on all my social media platforms to see what the fans thought about this new double contact rule change. On YouTube, it was 57% for the rule change and 43% against. Instagram, 23% for, 77% against. TikTok, 32% for, 68% against. On X, 40% for and 60% against. In general, it looks like majority of the fans were against this rule change, which I was actually pretty surprised by. Unfortunately, I couldn't do a poll on my Facebook page, but I did get some interesting comments. One came from an actual referee who agrees that it makes the game better because it eliminates different double call standards that varies from each match, each player, and even each coach, and definitely from referee to referee. And the funny thing about his comment is I actually played against this player and he admittedly had an atrocious double on the court that I featured on my Instagram. So thanks for providing your 2 cents, Kevin Thomas, and admitting to your atrocious double. Some other interesting comments about this rule change from my social media polls included: let's take the skill out of the game. More rallies, more fun. Makes it more consistent with international rules. Middles definitely benefit from this rule. That was probably one of my favorite ones, because we all know middle blockers not only like to block the opponent, but they like to block out the setter so they can step in and set the ball. Shout out to Taylor Averill for that one. Now that we got everyone else's opinion, I'll share mine from the perspective of a coach and a player who's also gone through other major rule changes. If you're looking to purchase new volleyball gear, which includes volleyball shoes, bags, jerseys, knee pads, spandex, and much more, then I highly recommend shopping at my favorite online volleyball store, All Volleyball. They have great customer service, fast shipping, and best of all, you can use my discount code and link in the description box below to get 10% off your entire purchase. And all orders over $75 qualify for free shipping. They even sell a setter's ball, which is a weighted volleyball to help you improve your setting, as well as other volleyball training equipment. So take advantage of my discount and get yourself some volleyball gear today. I'll summarize my perspective in 3 bullet points. I believe that this rule change will increase the popularity of volleyball by making the game easier to understand for non-volleyball people and more TV friendly. Have you ever tried explaining a double call to someone who doesn't play volleyball as you're watching a volleyball game? You actually spend more time trying to point out doubles during the play that your friend will never understand instead of enjoying the game itself. And then you find yourself saying, ooh, that was a double, but then the referee didn't call it, and then you gotta explain that to your friend too. The way to make a sport more TV friendly is to have fewer stoppages and not to interrupt exciting momentum, which is often what double calls end up doing. Remember that the growth of the game only happens when they attract new volleyball fans and not existing ones. And the more popular that volleyball grows, the more playing opportunities there are the more often it will be televised, and the more money there is for professional volleyball players and college volleyball scholarships. So all the coaches, players, and fans benefit from the growing popularity of volleyball. Anything to reduce the influence of the referees, other than purely black and white objective calls, will allow players to decide the fate of the game and not the officials. We're there to watch athletes compete, not for referees to influence the game. I understand how difficult it is to be a referee, and I appreciate all of their hard work, especially since they always have to deal with coaches, players, and fans constantly yelling at them. But I've been a part of too many games where the official's ego is more important than making the right call, instead of allowing the most deserving team to earn the point. I can definitely understand how this rule change can diminish the technical skill of setting, which I agree to some extent. But as a setter, you're still going to set with much more accuracy when your set comes out cleaner than when it doesn't. Here's an example from one of my volleyball lessons, and you can see from the back view that when she sets with her hands unevenly, the ball tends to veer off target, but when the hands are even and clean, the ball goes more to the intended target. So shout out to Bianca for giving a great setting example. She's been putting so much great work into our lessons, and I'm so proud of all the improvements that she's made. So a more technically skilled setter will still have an advantage over a less technically skilled setter, even if neither of them ever get called for any doubles. I've personally experienced 2 significant rule changes throughout my volleyball career since I first started playing in 2001. And honestly, they were even bigger than the double contact rule change. The first one was adding a libero, and the second one was changing from side out scoring to rally scoring. Now, a lot of you young volleyball players are thinking, what the heck is side out scoring? And I know the older volleyball players are thinking, these young players don't even know what real volleyball is. Back in 2001, I played volleyball in high school before there was even a libero. I remember when the libero was added, volleyball coaches and officials were complaining that this would create too much confusion on the court and would eliminate the skill of the all-around volleyball player that can go both front row and back row, regardless of what position they played. I believe that the FIVB instituted the libero rule change because they wanted to grow the game of volleyball by making it more TV friendly. And having a libero would make back row substitutions much more fluid instead of always stopping the game to substitute someone for the back row. And best of all, to ensure that shorter players who tend to be better at passing and defense in general always have a position dedicated for their contribution on the court. And I thought that was a really cool aspect of the rule change. Players were becoming taller and taller in the 80s and the 90s, and even setters who were traditionally played by shorter volleyball players started becoming 6'8" or 203 centimeters, like Peter Blanchet from Holland and Volleyball from the USA. 10 years after the libero rule was instituted, people forgot that there was even no libero at one point, and now it's become one of the most important positions on the court. Now let's talk about rally scoring, which was an even bigger controversy. I played side-out scoring in high school, where teams played to 15 points and you can only score when you served, which could lead to super exciting and long volleyball matches. I remember playing in a 3.5-hour volleyball match in high school. Yes, that was 3.5 hours and it went to 5 sets. However, unpredictable game endings don't make it TV friendly because television networks have to have an actual schedule so other programs can actually show throughout the day. So rally scoring was introduced so that volleyball games would have a predictable ending, which makes it a lot easier for TV networks to want to show volleyball on their TV stations. It's funny how some hardcore volleyball players still call side-out scoring real volleyball. If you really want to keep real volleyball alive, then you should play the original version from 1895 called Mintonette, have 9 players on the court, no 10-foot line, no jump serve, and play with an actual basketball. I remember when I first transitioned from side-out scoring to rally scoring in college, I honestly wasn't a fan, and I think it was because I just simply wasn't used to it. But it did make it a lot easier for new volleyball players and parents to understand how volleyball works. And therefore, when people actually understand the game, they are more likely to play it and watch it. It's that simple. Over time, I eventually forgot about side-out scoring and still just had as much fun playing volleyball with rally scoring. And it was true that volleyball started showing up more and more on TV because rally scoring was one of the most significant changes in the game to make it more TV friendly. I would love to know your thoughts on this new controversial double contact rule change in the comments below. I wanted to mention one more significant rule change, which was allowing for 2 liberos each set, where 2 liberos can now be used and changed throughout a single set. So you can have 1 libero specializing in serve-receive and then 1 libero specializing in defense. Or if 1 libero is not performing that well, you can just switch them out during the middle of the set. I know that coaches really love this rule change, and I'm not so sure players do because knowing that a libero can be switched out mid-game is not the most fun experience. I'll leave the article to all these other rule changes linked in the description box for you to read.